The best pitcher in baseball. Simple. That's how the Tigers made it to the playoffs last year. It was a combination of having the best pitcher in all of baseball and some guys producing at all the right times. Crazy run last year from the Tigers. And some could argue that they got even better this offseason. They added 4 guys and didn't lose anybody, really. Of course, they'll probably send a couple of guys down to the minors, but not losing anybody's good. I mean, they're bringing back their whole team. That was a playoff team and almost went to the ALCS last year, almost beat the Guardians, and had the advantage, too. They had a Tarek Schoolball game, but they couldn't get it done. But I would say this team is destined for something good in the future as long as they have Schoolball and if these top prospects work out. So basically, if everything works out, the Tigers will be good. Unfortunately, not quite there yet. They've had a couple of question marks, really. They still have a couple of question marks in their lineup. And last year, when I say fluky, I don't mean it as a bad thing because, hey, y'all made the playoffs. I didn't. So good for you. And I do like the Tigers. I like some of these guys, their makeups. But it was a little fluky. Some of these guys aren't projected to do great things. They've had a couple signings and draft picks that haven't worked out. But hey, stuff happens. They're looking to repeat their success in a stacked as in deep AL Central this year. So who they got, obviously their blockbuster signing was Gleyber Torres. This one surprised me a little bit. I thought they were reaching, to be honest. We did a video, Vlad and I did, discussing the Gleyber Torres signing, and we both weren't too high on it for the Tigers, mainly just because Gleyber Torres is kind of just an average hitter, and he doesn't play shortstop. He plays second base, and they had to force Colt Keith to play first, who was their second baseman last year, up-and-coming young guy. That's not great, but hey, it's Gleyber Torres, right? Maybe he can capture some of the magic he had earlier on the Yankees in his all-star days. Jack Flaherty is another guy who we don't really know what we're going to get. Are we going to get the down-year Jack Flaherty, or are we going to get the bounce-back Jack Flaherty in his second stint with the Tigers? He's going to be their number 2 pitcher. He's projected to have a good year, so only 29 years old. That's crazy. But had a great run with the world champion Dodgers last year. Then, obviously, their bullpen is insane. They got Tommy Kahnle and a few other guys for that. We'll talk about their bullpen a little later because that is the strong suit of this team. Obviously, Tariq Schoolball in the rotation, but the bullpen as well. And Alex Cobb, they signed him this offseason. Don't know when he's coming back, but I assume it's going to be for this year if they signed him and paid him a decent bit. And then they're hoping to get a couple of other guys back as well. Parker Meadows and Matt Vierling. Hopefully they can get them back. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, we will certainly see about that. So Tigers, like I said, great year last year. Added pieces. One thing remains the same. Their best hitter is probably going to be Riley Green. Disappeared a little bit in the playoffs last year, but still a very good hitter there in that left field position. 800 OPS guy, going to give you solid defense out there. 4.5 WAR almost. They're projecting a pretty solid year, probably defensively for Gleyber Torres because these stats don't really seem that great. Kind of a 740 OPS range. It's a little bit above average. Kerry Carpenter is a guy who's hit the ball hard in the past. Was injured a little bit last year, but another guy that'll give you hopefully some good production at in right field. And then Colt Keith is kind of their up-and-coming player, was a top prospect last year. A guy that just finished up his rookie year last year, drafted in the 5th round in the year 2020. But they just need guys to step up. Obviously, elephant in the room is Spencer Torkelson not being on here. He was the first overall pick in 2020, and his career has just not panned out. He strikes out all the time. But hey, maybe he can capture some of his first overall pick potential. Right now, he's kind of looking like a bust, though. Jace Young is going to play his rookie year this year. So is Trey Sweeney. These are two guys that kind of came on in last year, and these are two guys that will probably platoon according to Fangraphs, but two lefties who you should see playing shortstop and third for a little bit longer. They're both 24 years old. Hopefully you can get production out of them, although they project as very high strikeout players. And then obviously you got guys like Wenzel Perez, Andy Ibanez, Zach McKinstry, just guys, like glue guys, not great, but Andy Ibanez came up with a clutch hit last year. And then Javier Baez, one of the worst contracts in baseball. Good fielder, I guess, but boy, his strikeout to walk ratio is terrible. Bad contract. Don't know what they were doing there, but hey, we all make mistakes, right? Talked a little bit about Skubal. I saw him dice up my favorite team last year. It was a treat to watch, even though it wasn't very fun. Right? He's an incredible lefty. Going to throw almost 200 innings. This is according to Fangraphs. Shout out to Fangraphs. Get you 5.5 WAR. Should be in the Cy Young contention again this year, in my opinion. He's my pick to win it. He's the best pitcher in the American League. Flaherty is a very good number 2. Already talked about him. And then they got guys like Reese Olson, Kenta Maeda, who they signed a couple years ago. And then Casey Mize, who's their first-round pick in 2018, who hasn't really panned out, but hey, first-round pick is a first-round pick. And then they just boosted their bullpen a lot. Bo Breesky is a guy who played really well. I hope I'm saying that name right. Jason Foley, Tyler Holton. Obviously, they got Tommy Canley, Will Vest, a bunch of guys that aren't household names, but hey, still guys that can maybe give you something on the back end in that bullpen. Obviously, their bullpen was a huge result of them doing well last year. But I would be excited for these prospects, man. Jackson Jobe is going to be up this year. I think Fangraphs has him starting in AAA, but he pitched a little bit last year. Right? He is the number 5 prospect. I think the number 1 pitcher prospect in baseball. He's going to be up in the major leagues for sure. Sometime you'll see him. Might not see Max Clark because he's only 20 years old, but he's the number 6 prospect in baseball. I've known of Max Clark for a long time. He was an Indiana guy, very hyped as a child, and he's lived up to that hype for sure. He's an absolute star in the making, in my opinion. And then you got Bryce Rainier, Thyron Liranzo, and Josue Briqueño. 3 guys that will probably be up in the future. I can't say I know much about them, but they're in the top 100 for a reason. So scouts must like their potential. Last year, like I said, an awesome season for Tiger fans. 86 and 76, second in the AL Central. Almost made it to an ALCS, which is crazy. Crazy generational type run there. That's why I love baseball. This year, Fangraphs expects some regression, and we are kind of on the same page. They have 82 and 80. We have 80 and 82. Our MVP is Tarek Skubal. Obviously, he's amazing, but I don't see the Tigers making the playoffs again. Very similar to the Royals. They have one good player, and a bunch of circumstances go right, and the one player pops off. Yeah, they can definitely make it and make a run in October, but otherwise, I feel as if regression to the mean is going to happen for Detroit. But hey, future's bright.